Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us here this afternoon for our virtual field trip. My name is Megan Winters, and I work at the Ohio Pork Council, where I work alongside Ohio's pig farmers. And so we're so excited to have you here with us this afternoon. If you are joining us from your classroom via Zoom, we invite you to submit your questions via the Q&A function, and we'll try to answer as many of those as we can. And if you're joining us via Facebook, again, we invite you to insert your questions in the comments section, and we'll be sure to answer those as well. I'd like to thank National Pork Board for sponsoring today's program. And without further ado, I will introduce our farmer host for today. This afternoon, we have Christine Snowden with us, and she is a service team member at family-owned and operated Heimerl Farms in Central Ohio, where she's worked for 1.5 years. Christine grew up showing pigs at the fair and studied animal science at The Ohio State University. Christine works with 50,000 pigs across Central Ohio and enjoys watching them grow from piglets to full-sized pigs. So Christine, I will go ahead and turn it over to you to say hello to our students that are joining us this afternoon.
Hi everyone, welcome to one of my hog barns. So as Megan said, I am Christine Snowden and I'm very excited to get to share with you what the inside of a hog barn looks like. So one of the first things that we're going to talk about, because it's the most important thing about raising pigs, is called biosecurity. So before we even make it into the barn, we go through the office. So I'm going to quick scan the office for you guys so you can kind of see what the office looks like inside the hog barn. So the main door, you take off your shoes, and then the 2 showers in the back, and then kind of our brain boxes right here, and then the 2 showers, and then the water manifold. Then I'm going to come back out into the barn and explain why we have that stuff in the office. So when I come through the main door, I take my shoes off, which are in shoe covers, so that I make sure I don't bring anything into the barn on my shoes that could potentially get the pigs sick. I then take a shower and put on barn specific clothing to make sure that I'm not bringing anything on my street clothes into the barn with me. And then the next thing that I'm going to talk about is after every single turn, after the big pigs leave and we're getting new pigs, we wash the barn. So that's what this side of the barn is showing you guys right now. A nice clean facility for those new little pigs to come because their immune system isn't as good as the older pigs. We want to make sure that they have a very clean environment to be able to start off right when they come into this barn. This barn is for feeder to finish pigs. So instead of coming straight here from the sow farm, the pigs will go to a nursery barn first, and they'll be at that barn for 6 weeks. While they are at that barn, they get a couple vaccinations, and we take them from 12 pounds to 50 pounds before they come into this barn. So in that 6 weeks, they gain a lot of weight and they get ready to come into this barn. So the other thing I want to show you while we're on the clean side is the feeding system. We'll talk a little bit more about the feed, but I just wanted to show you guys a nice clean view while the piglets are on the other side of the barn. Is there any questions about biosecurity while we're on the clean side of the barn?
Yeah, Christine, if you could just, we've been so used to washing our hands more and wearing masks when we're out in public, and pig farmers have kind of been doing that all along. So maybe just talk to us a little bit about why biosecurity is so important and kind of the things that you do on a daily basis to ensure that your pigs are staying healthy.
Yeah, so biosecurity is so important because just like COVID-19, the pigs can get viruses and diseases as well. So we want to make sure that anything outside of the barn doesn't come into the barn. That's another main reason why we don't grow very many pigs outside anymore, because we like to have them in this nice facility to keep them climate controlled, away from predators, and also keep them nice and healthy. every single barn that I go to, because I'm also in charge of the gilt side of our business, which is the females that are going back to the sow farm to become mamas. I have to shower in and shower out of every single one of my barns to make sure that the next barn that I'm going to, I'm not taking anything from this barn to the next one.
Perfect. Thanks, Christine. If you want to go ahead and guide us into that next room there, I think we're looking forward to seeing some pigs.
Yep. And so just so you guys saw on there the Pictionary, it kind of tells you what terms I might be using. So a sow is a mama pig. That means she's had babies. And then a gilt, which you can see now, are females that have not had babies yet. So as you guys can see, we're on the side of the barn that has little baby pigs in it. Just to kind of walk you through their pen, they have a ton of room to play around in, but pigs usually are actually very, very clean animals. So they get this huge pen, and they usually only use the bathroom in the back of the pen and in the front of the pen, and then they use the middle as their sleeping area and their eating area. So I'm going to go ahead and get in the pen with these girls. These girls are about 65 pounds and they are about 10 weeks old already. So I just like to move slowly through the pen because the pigs have what we call a flight zone around them. So when I walk towards the pigs, they're going to move away from me. So I just like to walk slowly in their pen, not to make them run or do anything like that. So we're now in the middle of the pen. And as I said before, I kind of wanted to talk to you guys about what pigs eat. So we're here at their feeder, and I'll show you guys a close-up on their feed. Their feed is mostly made up of corn and soybeans and some vitamins. These pigs will receive 10 different diets in their lifetime. So from when they're little babies all the way up to when they reach 280 pounds, which we consider a market weight, they get 10 different stages of feed. So we want to feed them appropriate to their size to make sure they grow. The only thing that really changes in their diets is the amount of protein that we feed as they keep going up in weight. So just so you guys can kind of see, that's what the pig's feed looks like. You might be wondering why it's like a flour texture instead of whole kernels of corn. We like to grind it way down so that the pig's stomach, which is a stomach just like our own, can intake all the nutrients, and it doesn't have to work any harder to intake that nutrients by breaking down those whole corn. So the other cool thing about this feeder is that, sorry, this little guy is being friendly, is that their water source is also right there. So as you can see, this little pig drinking all at the same time, have it all in one spot so they don't have to worry about working hard to get food and water. Are there any questions about the pig's diet?
Yeah, Christine, thanks for sharing that with us. So all of these pigs here are a little bit older, but some of our students might be wondering, what do little baby piglets eat? Do they drink mother's milk for a while and then transition into a pig feed, or how does that work?
Yep. So when the pigs are born at the sow farm, they are drinking mama's milk. So when they're born, they get to spend 21 days with mama. When they're born, they're about 2 pounds. So we go ahead and let them get up to pounds in that 21 days. And in the last 2 or 3 days, depending on the sow farm that they are living at, they may get a little bit of a creep feed, and that's just to help them adjust when they go to the nursery or to the wean to finish barn to get on to feed instead of mama's milk. What's really cool is that first feed that they get when they go to the nursery is very, very sweet smelling. So it smells a lot like Fruit Loops, so that it really encourages the piglets to eat that feed and really have a great transition from mama's milk to feed.
Perfect. Thanks, Christine. We have a question here in the chat. from Miss Cheryl Burnett. And she would like to know if they ever eat anything besides the powder mix.
They do not, because we really try to regulate their diet and make sure that they're growing nice and healthy. And the other thing is we work really hard on biosecurity for their feed as well. So we work with suppliers of every ingredient that is in the pig's feed to make sure that it's safe and clean and might have any disease on it. They've let it sit long enough that that disease or virus has died. So we really closely regulate that. So that's why we don't feed anything else into the feed.
Thanks, Christine. While you're there in that pen, talk to us a little more about what those pigs do all day and some of the things that farmers offer to them as enrichment.
Yep, so as you guys can see, they like to play with one another and pick at each other all day. They also spend a lot of their day sleeping. So if we kind of look over in this pen that I'm not in, those pigs are laying down. They just have nice full bellies and they're gonna take a little nap. Pigs, when they're on mama, they eat about 20 times a day because mama tells them when to eat. So each mama has a different grunt to get her piglets to tell them that it's time to eat. And so when they transition into this new barn, we have to get them to start eating on their own without that grunting sound from mama. So they, after they're done eating, they usually eat about 6 to 10 times a day here. They fill up their bellies and then they go lay down. If they aren't doing that, they're usually playing with one another, like these pigs. And the other thing that we do for some enrichment is we might put bowling balls in the pens. We hang chains on the gates for them to rattle and play with. And we just do a lot of different things that they can push around with their noses and really entertain themselves.
That's great, Christine. We have a comment coming in here from our Facebook feed from Lenora Parsons, and she commented how clean the barn looks. So maybe this would be a good time to talk to us a little bit more about what those slats in the floor are for and how they help keep the barn really nice and clean for the pigs.
Yep, so I'm actually standing on these slats above a 14-foot deep pit. So when we build hog barns, we build a pit underneath the barn for two reasons. One, for manure storage, and two, to be a good neighbor to everyone around us because the pit keeps that smell of pig poop down inside of it instead of spreading it out to the world. So when the pigs go to the bathroom, it actually goes right down into these slats when they run around and fills up that 14-foot pit. And that's why the pigs stay so clean because number one, they only use the bathroom in the back and in the front of the pen and then keep this living area really nice and clean.
Very interesting. Thanks for that, Christine. So as we all know, Thanksgiving is later this week, and so that means that winter time is coming. So talk to us a little bit about how the pigs stay comfortable in the winter, and then as well as during the summer when it's hot here in Ohio.
Yeah, so because we are in a more of a winter mode in this barn, I'll show you guys how the pigs stay nice and warm. And again, this is a great reason why we have brought pigs inside so we can really control their climate. Pigs are very picky about the temperature in which they live in. They really want it to be from 70 to 65 degrees, depending on how big they are. And the way that we do that in the wintertime to keep it warm is by this bad boy. This is a heater. There's two on both sides of the barn. So between the pig's body heat and this, those brain boxes I showed you in the office, the white big boxes, we set a temperature. And if the temperature goes below that, this guy kicks on and pushes out hot air into the barn. When it's summertime, though, obviously we aren't going to have heaters on. And we have a ventilation system that works off a curve. So as the temperature goes up, more things in the barn kick on. So right here, this very sunny spot is actually a curtain. So as the temperature drops, that curtain goes down and allows the barn to go into a tunnel mode. First, when we go into tunnel, we have these ceiling inlets up here open. So that also helps us in the winter time too, because the attic above us allows the air to heat up, and then that hot air can come down onto the pigs. But in the summertime, we use that to keep air flowing through the pen really well. So the inlet will open, and then as it starts to get even warmer, that inlet will close again. The curtain will continue to drop this whole time, and then the barn brain in the office tells fans to start kicking on in the barn. That allows the barn to go into what we call tunnel ventilation, because it makes the barn like a big wind tunnel. And as the temperature goes up, we move more air per pig. So there's a whole bunch of mathematics that goes into calculating how much cubic feet per minute the pigs need at what size to keep them at that 65 to 70 degrees. So here's the other end of the barn. As you guys can see, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 fans. So we have 5 fans that kick on as the temperature rises. The picture that you guys can see is what they look like from the outside of the barn. So that really allows all that air to get moved to keep those pigs nice and cool. The other thing that we do for them is, as you guys can see up here in the ceiling, we have misters that come on every 5 minutes for 5 minutes on and 15 minutes off, that allow the pigs to cool down, because pigs don't actually sweat. So having that little bit of water come down onto them allows their body heat to evaporate that water and take some of that heat away so that they're more comfortable.
Thanks for all of that great information, Christine. I think some of our viewers are maybe surprised at all of the technology and the math and science that goes into keeping those pigs safe and happy and healthy, no matter what time of year it might be. So what would you say the temperature is in there today, and what would the temperature be in there on a hot July day?
So because of the size of these pigs, currently the temperature in this barn is 71 degrees. And on a hot July day, we want to try to keep that temperature as close as we can to that 65-degree mark. By even though the temperature outside is 90, when we get all that air moving, it really helps to move that temperature down inside of the barn.
Perfect. Thanks, Christine. We do have another question here in the chat. Do the baby pigs stay with their litter mates? And then how old are they when they move to a barn like this one?
Yep. So the baby pigs, when they get weaned, so at that 21 days of being on mama's milk, when they get weaned, they get gently taken out of mama's crate and put into the alleyways in the farrowing room. So they could potentially stay with their litter mates depending on how they get sorted onto the semi truck. But really, we kind of want them to become friends with other pigs, because mama has a certain type of immunity. So if she is a first time mama, her immunity that she's giving to her babies in her first milk, which we call colostrum, isn't as high as a third or fourth litter sow, which a litter for a sow we call a parity. So a third or fourth parity sow has a much better immune system that she's giving to the babies through her milk. So we really want them to commingle and really kind of gain more immunity from the animals that they're moving with. These pigs came into this barn at 9 weeks of age, so they've only been here for 2 weeks.
So Christine, how do you transport them from different barns, and maybe talk a little bit about some of the different tools and transport methods that you might use to do that safely?
Yep. So whenever we're moving little pigs, we use what we call a rattle paddle or a shaker. And it really could range anywhere from an empty milk jug to companies actually make shakers, and we fill it up with BBs or just screws or whatever, anything that will make a loud like maraca sound. The piglets will move away from that type of sound because it's unfamiliar to them. So we use that. And we also use this thing right here. So this is called a sort board. Pigs see this as a physical barrier because it's solid. That's why the pigs' gates are just gates where you can see through, because we want them to move around that gate. So when I go to move these pigs, I'm going to open up this gate. They can see all the way down the alleyway here. Sorry, all the way down the alley, but I'm going to keep that sort board with me behind me because now they think that that's a barrier and they can't go back to where they were. So every size pig, we use that to load animals. When we load animals, we take them down this alley and go back up that first alley that I came through when I went from the clean side of the barn to the side of the barn that has pigs on it. And at the end of that, there is a chute. So it's a cement chute, basically an incline that allows the pigs to walk up onto the semi truck. So we usually use semis to move pigs. We could also use just small animal trailers as well. And when we move large hogs, there are a lot of people helping to move hogs because we like to take them in very small groups. So when they're this size, you can usually control about 10 to 15 pigs at a time and still have control of what we're going to call the lead animal of the group that you're moving. But when you're moving big pigs, you only want to take 3 to 5 because you still want to remain in control of the lead animal.
Thanks, Christine. So we have another question here in the chat. Approximately how many babies are in the barn at any one given time?
Yep. So when I go to a feeder to finish barn, all of my feeder to finish barns range from 2,400 pigs to 2,450. So at any one time, we usually have 2,400 to 2,450 pigs. If I'm going to a wean to finish barn, we wean the pigs off of their sex. So the girls go in one alley and the boys go in a different alley. They still go on the same semi, but the semis have 2 decks. So the girls go on the top deck and the boys go on the bottom deck. They all go to the same barn because we have specialized growers that are really good at working with those young pigs and helping them transition to that feed. And we go ahead and have them raise both sexes for us until they reach 6 weeks of age, and then the boys go to a different barn. So those barns will be at 4,800 after we get all of our weans, but they're only that at that capacity while the pigs are really small, and they're only at that capacity for about 2 weeks before we start moving out the barrows and getting the barn down to barn capacity for market animals of 2,400.
So Christine, I know that we've heard you mention piglets, pigs, and hogs. And we have a question here in the chat from Nancy, and she would like to know what's the difference between a pig and a hog?
There is no difference between pig and hog. It can be used interchangeably.
Perfect. Thanks, Christine. So we notice here that most of those pigs appear to be white. There might be some of them with a couple spots on them, but are different breeds of pigs bred for different reasons, or why do all of those pigs look the same?
Yep, so all of my pigs are white for 2 reasons. One is that because this is a gilt barn, a lot of my pigs are going to go back and become mamas. So actually white breeds of pigs, which include Yorkshire, Landrace, and a couple other breeds. We mostly use Yorkshire and Landrace. They are more maternal breeds. So we really pull their traits from them because we want these girls to be good mamas. We also have white pigs because the packing plant likes to see white pigs. But for those animals that are going to market, we actually have their dads be something more of a um, different kind of breed, like that Duroc and Hampshire, because those help us to gain muscle and have a more quality meat.
We have another question here from Miss Cheryl Burnett's students at Parkmore, and they would like to know if pigs are intelligent.
Pigs are extremely intelligent. That's why we work so hard to make sure that they have nice sturdy gaits and keep them nice and safe inside, because these guys, once they do something once, they know it and they keep that knowledge with them. So as soon as I let them out of this pen and they figure out where the out gate is, they're going to want to go out every single time. So yes, they're super intelligent. And that's why pig farmers really enjoy working with pigs, because you can show them where the feed is and they're going to go right back to that feeder every time they're hungry.
Definitely. So if anyone else has any questions, please insert those in the chat. We've had a lot of really great ones so far, and I know that Christine would be happy to answer them. Christine, while we wait for some more questions, kind of talk to us a little bit about what your day-to-day job looks like, and what you are looking for when you walk into a barn like this, and how you make sure that all of those pigs are receiving the best care possible.
Yeah, so the basic job duties for my job is basically I work with our contract growers. So Heimerl owns the pigs, and then they rent the barns from other people. So a contract grower is someone who is the day-to-day caretaker and also owns the facility that the pigs live in. So I work with about 20 contract growers, and they raise our pigs for us. We do that because it's just a lot easier for us to have day-to-day caretakers for as many pigs as we are producing, because it really gives them more care for those animals. So when I am working, because I am a gilt selection officer, I really make sure that I stay within a sow farm flow. So as I was kind of talking about how the sow farm works and how those piglets get to this barn, I work with 3 different sow farms. So every single one of those sow farms has different finishing barns that those piglets go to. When I start in one of my sow farms, I try to only go to those finishers that the same sow farm pigs are in, because again, I don't want to take anything from a different sow farm and give it to these pigs, because they are not immune to everything that those pigs are immune to as well. And I usually visit about 4 to 6 barns a day, just making sure that the animals are being cared for the way that we want them to be, and also making sure that the contract growers are getting all of their questions answered and taking good care of those animals.
Definitely. So Christine, what's your favorite part about your job?
My favorite part is just getting to work with the animals. As you guys can see, they are extremely nosy once you hold still and allow them to come single day. And I like working to feed the America and feed people around the world, and making sure that they are getting good. And I also to find solutions for the sow farms that I work with, and making sure that they are getting the best replacement females that they can to keep having more great new babies.
So Christine, the pigs that you work with on a daily basis, are they usually about this size? Do you work with bigger pigs? Do you get to work with piglets? Talk to us a little bit about some of the pigs that you see on a daily basis.
Yep, so all of the barns that I go to have different pigs at different growth stages, actually. So a lot of them have various size pigs. So when I talk about that sow farm flow, it kind of goes in a circle. So each barn follows the barn behind it. So the next barn that I'll go to after this barn will have the next size up pigs. So they'll be closer to almost 100 pounds. And then from there, we just keep working up to that 280-pound pig. And then when I get to that barn, I'm usually marking market loads for them to start heading to market and becoming that bacon that everybody loves.
Yes, that's for sure. Christine, we have a question here in the chat from Jessica, and she would like to know how many piglets are usually born in a litter.
Yep. So most of our sows are ranging from 12 to 14 pigs in their parity. Sorry, litter. Parity and litter are also interchangeable, just like pig and hog.
Perfect. Thanks, Christine. If anyone else has any questions, we invite you to put those in the chat. Christine, is there anything else that you want to share with our students? Maybe something that they might be surprised to know about pigs or pig farming here in Ohio?
Yeah, so another good thing to know about pig farming is our use of antibiotics in keeping pigs nice and healthy. Luckily, many of my pigs, as you guys can see, are super healthy. They have nice full bellies, but sometimes, just like you guys, pigs get sick. I usually don't reach for an antibiotic first. I try to give those pigs electrolytes or aspirin and see if that helps them. If I do have to use an antibiotic on that pig, I follow strict withdrawal times on that antibiotic. So when I go in, you guys can see this girl right here has a blue spot on her. That means that she's been treated. So on my treatment log inside the barn, inside the office, I write down her tag. So you guys can see each one of these pigs has a tag in their ear that has their own individual number on it. And then I also write down her PIN number, which in the back of the PIN, you can see it says PIN 17. And I write down what she was treated with. And on that same log, I write down what day she'll be able to be sent to market so that I make sure that her meat is clean and antibiotic free.
Thanks, Christine. We have another question here that came through Facebook from Lindsay, and she would like to know if the pigs ever fight with each other or get kind of playful or anything like that.
Yep, they definitely do that all day long. You guys can kind of see they're running around the pen and playing with one another, just like you might pick on your older brother or younger brother and sister. The pigs like to pick on each other as well and nose around, and sometimes that leads to a little bit of squawking, but they usually calm down once they start running around the pen.
So Christine, for some of our viewers who might have joined a little late, do you want to turn the camera around and show us what you wear inside the barn and why it's important to wear that special clothing when you're in the barn?
Yep, so I normally wear this blue coverall suit because it's a one piece and it keeps me safe from the pigs in case they nose at me, and it's also barn designated, so it's nice and clean and I don't have to worry about wearing my street clothes in here and bringing in any viruses or diseases, because when I go back to shower out of this barn, I put this in a laundry basket, and the washer and dryer inside of the office is where it gets washed. And then I also wear rubber boots, so they go up halfway up my calf, and they really help me to, number one, have a lot of traction when walking through the pen, but they also are really easy to clean because we really try to keep everything that we use nice and clean so that we aren't bringing anything to the pigs and making them sick.
Definitely. So that brings us to another good point, Christine. We have another question in the chat. Do sick pigs go somewhere different, or do they stay here in their main pen while they're getting treatment until they start to feel better?
Yep, so that one that I showed you guys that had the blue mark, she was just a little bit down, so we gave her a shot of aspirin and it spiked her right back up. But any animal that is not feeling very good, we usually move to a hospital pen and make sure that they get more individualized attention there, because they didn't rebound as quickly and they need to move away from the rest of the pigs that are in the pen and make sure that they are receiving all the care that they need.
Perfect. We have another question here in the chat from Kalina Stackhouse, and she would like to know if the pigs ever receive any special treats or any different types of feed, maybe.
So these pigs do not receive any special treats or feed just because they are going to go back into our food system. So we want to make sure that they're just getting the specialized feed that we give them. Now, when I was showing pigs in 4-H, those pigs got marshmallows and Oreos and peanut butter and all the treats that I would give to a dog, because you really spend a lot more individualized time with animals that you're showing.
Christine, we have another question here from Nancy, and she would like to know if pigs make good pets.
I don't know that a pig would make a great pet just because they grow very, very quickly. So I think a lot of times, just like people that get large breeds see this cute little puppy, and then all of a sudden these pigs actually market weight in just 26 weeks. So they go from 2 pounds to 280 pounds in about 6 months. And I think that surprises a lot of people. And they don't just stop growing when they reach 280 pounds. If they were my size, reach 500 to 600 pounds.
Yep, definitely, Christine. A fast-growing pig might make it a bit difficult to have it as a pet. So thanks for that. Christine, is there anything else that you want to share with our students here today before we wrap up our trip this afternoon?
I don't think so.
All right, Christine. Well, thank you so much for showing us what a day in the life of a pig farmer is like. And we really enjoyed getting to spend some time with those cute pigs there. We do have one more additional virtual field trip in December. It will be December 15th for middle and high school students. So if you or one of your other students is interested in joining us, we invite you to do that. If you visit ohiopork.org/field trip, you can get registered for that. And if you are in an elementary classroom and you're interested in joining us again, we will be kicking off some more virtual field trips in the spring. So hope that you'll join us again in 2021. So again, thank you, Christine, for your time today. And thank you to all of our students and teachers for spending your afternoon with us.
Yes, thank you very much.